Good evening, good morning, whatever time it is, wherever you are, you're listening to Shadow Radio, and we have a new format for the show. We'll be switching over to all country all the time. That's right. Shadow Radio has moved to a country radio station. There'll be no more talk radio. There'll be no more information security. The only thing that we're going to be playing today is country music. So I hope all you country fans out there enjoy that. Yeah, right. Welcome to Shadow Radio, folks. I think I've put together a decent show for you today with a different format. In case you haven't noticed, I've done away with the lower voice for the Shadow character. I thought this would be a little bit more personal for the Shadow radio station, using my own voice. So we're going to go ahead and do some of the announcements. I post most of these. In fact, I post all of these on the information security community there. But first I want to talk about the shadowsgovernment.com top-level domain SSL certificate. For those of you who don't understand SSL, just because your browser says that it's an insecure connection or something's wrong, that doesn't mean that it's not encrypted. All an SSL self-signed certificate is that I'm not paying money to a company to say that it's valid. The connection between you and my servers is still encrypted. If you don't understand how that works, please pick up a book and read it, and stop sending me things about my SSL certificate. Somebody's trying to hack you. That's just ridiculous. Stop saying hacking as if it's bad. Second, now I did talk about this too. If you want to create your own group within information security under the flag of Shadow, that will be a great thing because it expands the community. It allows you to create your own little subgroup, so to speak. You'll be given a lot of privileges. Like I said in the announcements, you get your own shadowsgovernment.com subdomain. You get your own web server. You get your own branded logo with your title with the Shadow logo. So it's a pretty thing. You get your own QR code, secure FTP access to the site. So, keep in mind, that should be a fun little thing to do. The OWASP video will be out here soon. It takes a while to encode and get that stuff done. So with so many projects, it takes more time than I normally have to get everything done. So just be patient with those things. One more announcement. The news categories added. Please categorize your posts in the community with the proper, category. So I want to do something here that's kind of fun. I found a site with small brains and dumb laws. So apparently in the United States, we have a bunch of dumb laws. So each show, we're going to take a state alphabetically, starting with the first one, which is Alabama, and read some of the just ridiculous laws that are real, that you can be fined, charged, or even sentenced to death. So, in Alabama, this is the first state we're going to take. It's illegal to impersonate the clergy. It's illegal to maim oneself to escape duty. I'm pretty sure that means you can't go have your hand run over by a car to escape military service. And here's an interesting one. It's illegal to sell peanuts in Lee County after Sunday on Wednesday. Okay. It's illegal for a driver to be blindfolded while operating a vehicle. Dominoes may not be played on Sundays. So, if you're a big domino player, you can just forget about that on Sunday. And here's a great one. It's illegal to wear a fake mustache that causes laughter in church. Apparently they had a rash of people wearing fake mustaches at church in Alabama. Who knows? Who cares? Now, here's an interesting one, too. Putting salt on a railroad track may be punishable by death. All right. Boogers may not be flicked into the wind. It is legal to drive the wrong way down a one-way street if you have a lantern attached to the front of your automobile. That is just awesome. You must have windshield wipers on your car. Well, I can understand that one. You may not have an ice cream cone in your back pocket at any time in Alabama. And masks may not be worn in public. Well, I would like to see what Halloween looks like in Alabama then. It is considered an offense to open an umbrella on a street for fear of spooking horses. Okay. Women are able to retain all property they own prior to a marriage in the case of divorce. However, this provision does not apply to men. Okay, well, that's just wonderful. Why don't we just do 2 states? We'll go ahead and we'll do Alaska also. We'll do 2 states per show. So here's some laws in Alaska. Moose may not be viewed from an airplane. So if you're riding an airplane, don't look at any moose. You can be jailed. While it's legal to shoot bears, waking a sleeping bear for the purpose of taking a photograph is prohibited. So remember this, folks. Whenever you go to Alaska, don't wake a bear. You can be jailed for that. Just shoot them, then take a picture. It's considered an offense to push a live moose out of a moving plane. Okay. In Anchorage, no one may tie their pet dog to the roof of a car. For all you would-be pranksters out there, it's illegal to string wire across any road. That's actually a good law. Okay, persons may not live in a trailer as it is being hauled across the city. It's considered an offense to feed alcoholic beverages to a moose. Well, apparently everybody has a moose in Alaska. A person may only carry a concealed slingshot if that person has received the appropriate license. I'm going to go up to the local authority here and pay certain money to get my slingshot license. It's against the law to attempt to break any law in Title IX of the Code, public peace, morals, or welfare. And then finally, employers of bars may not let their bartenders serve while they are drunk themselves. Owners of flamingos may not let their pet into the barber shops. Okay, enough of that. So that's Alabama and Alaska stupid laws, so we're going to go ahead and move on here. We're going to go ahead with the news here. Is Facebook hazardous to your health? This is a story here on Google+. All these stories are taken from not Google+, but Google News. You may be interested to know that you might be doing it standing in line or red light or whatever, but apparently Facebook researchers indicate that the pervasive urge to see what's been posted since the last time you checked could be cutting into your sleep, your relationships, your health. According to the story, while using Facebook may seem like a harmless habit, some research points turned health hazards. And a few benefits. About 73% of adults online use social networking sites, with Facebook leading the pack. And I just read a story not too long ago, too, that apparently Facebook has become the geriatric capital of the social networking, where most of the people are moving to Facebook on the older age, 63 and up. So apparently Facebook's becoming the retirement home of the social networks. I guess because it's easy. Well, I'm glad that older people are starting to use computers, but it's a shame that they're starting to use Facebook as part of that. And some of the effects of Facebook, you may not know it, but the status messages are shared photo effects. But research indicates that these seemingly benign actions can have a collective effect on your health. And don't worry, I'm not going to go back and recut this because that's such a pain in the ass. Yeah, I do make mistakes. I should have a blooper reel. You should see how many times I try to record the show and have all these bloopers. Getting back to the point here, one study of the effects of Facebook used on undergraduates found time spent on Facebook was tied to a lower self-esteem, and a greater number of Facebook friends were negatively associated with academic and emotional adjustment among college freshmen. Among older students, the effects were more positive with Facebook use tied to improved social adjustment. But undergraduates are at a unique point in their young lives, and they may not represent social media users as a whole. So now, that's the research part of that. The next story here is iPhone separation anxiety. Isn't it good for all your research? Well, did you know that being away from your iPhone can actually cause separation anxiety? This is an actual research. There are many people who actually manifest symptoms of these disorders when forced to part with their iPhone for periods of time. Another reason why I hate Mac. How many times have I said I hate Mac? This study was done by the University of Missouri. There's nothing ambiguous about the study, which is entitled iPhone Separation Linked to Psychological Anxiety, Poor Cognitive Performance, According to the lead author, Russell Clayton, his team's findings suggest that iPhone separation can negatively impact the performance of mental tasks, and that the user's iPhone can become an extension of ourselves. Well, I can understand the psychology of that, too, to be honest with you, because we've now moved a lot of our personal lives and personal data into our devices. Back in the day, 10, 15, 20 years ago, we had our wallets, we had our diaries. We had personal pen and paper items, where today we just have one device for it all, and I can understand that. I can understand not just for iPhone, but any device. You have your shopping list. You have it's a world of your communications, the ability from the palm of your hand to communicate with the world and to do anything. And I think that is a wonderful thing, but you just have to use it the proper way. You can't depend on it and make sure it's always going to be there. You can't take it for granted that it's always going to be there. So just be wary. The University of Missouri team took an unorthodox approach to their study, though, advising subjects, all 40 of them iPhone users. I'm be curious to see what they say about Android users. So, that's that story. Interesting. Apparently, LG, with this news story, shows off its 8K display curved edge smartphone. I can't see the use of a curved edge smartphone. I don't really see, what that could do. The South Korean giant unveiled a smartphone with curved edges and an 8K display at the CES 2015 Consumer Electronics. In this phone, the notifications include text messages, can slide up the side of the phone. The curvy edges of the phone also put icons and sliders in easy reach. I don't think it can be any easier. I mean, it's 5-inch screen at the biggest phones. I don't think it could be any easier. We have to create a curved smartphone so people don't have to move their finger another 3 inches. Give me a break. There's convenience, and then there's ridiculous nonsense, and I think this falls into the category of ridiculous stupidity. What other better way to say Americans are lazy than saying we can't move our fingers more than 5 inches, whatever. Anyway, the next thing I want to touch on here, the story, the NSA's Rogers calls for more forceful response to cyber attacks. Okay, apparently the NSA director, Mike Rogers, the director of national security, says the government should be more forcefully responding to foreign countries that engage in cyber attacks, arguing that some hackers have come to believe that there is little price to pay for stealing U.S. government corporate data. He added that the growing number of cyber attacks represents one of the biggest transfers of intellectual knowledge that we have ever seen. Another top NSA official, Robert Joyce, referred to the Sony hack as a game changer. Now, this is what I don't understand. We have the NSA, we have this global spying program, but we couldn't stop a simple Sony attack. Come on, guys. This is ridiculous. This is what's called diversion, diversion, diversion. Stop diverting us and telling us we need to get scared about stuff. It's getting old. All right? NSA guys, you have the power in the computer systems and the technology and the resources to stop these things before they happen. We know you do. Stop trying to divert us to change the laws, because that's really what this is going to end up being. Let's get all the Americans scared, the people who don't know anything about technology. Let's get them all terrified about what other countries are going to do so we can systematically take away more of your rights. Come on. This is ridiculous. Stuff just drives me crazy. Later news in health, a study finds a link between optimism and ideal heart health. So basically, if you're an optimist, you have better heart health. So that's good, So be happy, have a better heart. And apparently a happy wife really does equal a happy life in the next story. Okay, so we're at almost 14 minutes of the story, so I'm just going to touch on these a little bit. The next story here we have is apparently a study. Your online persona says who you really are. So do you who are online match you in real life study? I mean, who you are online, does that match you in real life? A new study published in the Personality of Social Psychology Bulletin shows that avatars, the little icons you customize in video games and the internet forums, are pretty good depictions of people who create them. So I agree with that. Since more and more people meet, develop friendships and relationships online, researchers at New York University and Toronto looked into whether impressions people get from avatars, like the use of Nintendo Wii and World of Warcraft, are true reflections of real-life players they're interacting with. To measure this, the researchers had about 100 people create an avatar representation of themselves and then asked nearly 200 others to rate the avatars on openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. The results show that the traits like being outgoing and anxious are pretty easy to access, but other traits like conscientiousness and openness to new experiences are more difficult. People with agreeable traits were better and able to get their personalities across through the avatars than narcissists. Okay, who cares about that? More than 40 people have out-of-body experience after a California bakery serves cake laced with drugs. So, Cholula's bakery in Santa was shut down Wednesday after reports started coming in that customers were suffering symptoms ranging from nausea and hallucinations. Way to go, guys. Okay. So the big topic today that we wanted to talk about was artificial intelligence, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit because it's one of the most interesting aspects of information technology. Computers that think, problem-solving computers, computers that could do these billions of calculations per second and come up with a solution, But at MIT, when kids eat glue, they're exhibiting a lack of common sense. But you have to understand that computers equipped with artificial intelligence, it turns out, suffer from similar problems. While computers can tell you the chemical composition of glue, most can't tell if it is a gross choice for a snack, the lack of common sense that is ingrained in adult humans. So that's a learning process. Okay, for the last decade, MIT researchers have been building a system called ConceptNet. That can equip computers with common sense associations. It can process that a person may desire a dessert such as cake, which has the quality of being sweet. The system is structured as a graph with connections between related concepts and terms. So I don't think we're at the point where we can have a fully integrated computer system that's artificially intelligent. The real problem coming to artificial intelligence nowadays is the fact that computer programmers and developers and researchers are trying to integrate emotions into the computer. They're trying to programmatically describe how humans, manifest emotions. So that's the biggest hurdle, because when we say a sentence or we speak a sentence, there could be some connotative overtones to that sentence, an angry meaning, and that's really what the holy grail of artificial intelligence is to programmatically incorporate the structure of a human emotion into a system, because that's really what drives most of our decisions at some points, because we are emotional beings, and if we're going to develop a system that thinks like us, that would seem to be a necessary part of it. When you think about programming, and this is why it's so important that some of you or all of you who listen to the show think about learning a programming language, because there are two types. There's procedural programming language, and then there's object-oriented programming language. And procedural language is simply something like Pascal or C. They don't have objects, so you want you program in line. It's very sequential. Okay, when you're talking about object-oriented programming, you're creating an object. There's no better way to explain it. You're creating an object with attributes that inherit from its base object. Okay. So this is why I would prefer everyone learn an object-oriented language, because it's pretty much how we think. And once you're able to master an object-oriented language, you can understand how difficult it would be to program an artificial intelligence, because there has to be, first of all, we have to design an algorithm that understands human language, and that's been happening for quite some time now. So with artificial intelligence today, I don't think that we have the code to be able to design one. I don't think that we have the ability yet, because I think that AI has to be trained. And herein lies some problems. The artificial intelligence can only learn from imperfect beings. Humans are, by definition, imperfect. So you have to be very careful about who is going to train the artificial intelligence. Because if it's built in our image, you're going to have these, emotions of greed and need and bad things, bad emotions. So it can be very scary because the human lust for power has been part of our history for so long that to build an artificial intelligence, it wouldn't be over the moon to think that could happen and develop that way. So you have to be very careful. I remember Stephen Hawking talking about that, and I'm in total agreement with him. You have to be very careful on how to do that. It's just very dangerous. So let's go ahead and get to some of your questions today. I would really have liked to have covered more topics, but we're already at 20 minutes, so we're going to go ahead and finish these off with these questions here. And Ryan O'Donnell asked me my thoughts. We as Americans realize the importance of privacy based upon the U.S. Constitution, so why post personal information on social media and complain about rights? Well, first of all, Ryan, I think that we as users had an expectation of privacy. Okay, when we started posting, we didn't really have an understanding of online privacy. We're coming into a new world because of information and whatnot. So this is unprecedented. So it's not like we have something we can look back on in history and say, okay, well, this happened in history, because it hasn't. We're posting information because we enjoy communicating with other people. It's a necessity, a psychological necessity, that we love to communicate with other people and we want to share things. Okay? So we expect when we get online, even though the end user agreement says something else, we expect that the companies that we give our information to and post online is going to be kept secret. That was the expectation I think a lot of people understood. But you have to understand that these people aren't technologists. So they post these things on there thinking that the Facebook security rules and the Facebook privacy is going to save them from people prying in information. I think before anyone knew what was happening, it was already too late. People complain about rights because they expect that. They're too trusting. The bottom line is people are too trusting. And people who don't know technology are the real victims when it comes down to this. From an IT perspective, you're asking me? Well, I can't really give you it from an IT perspective. I'm giving it to you from somebody who doesn't know anything about computers. But from an IT perspective, I don't use Facebook. I don't complain about rights and share my personal information online. I used to put some things online about myself, but I've stopped doing that because I've learned, So Greg Ames here on the next question is, how is privacy affected when the service is provided by an American-based international company like Google with equipment in another country and the user in a third country? What jurisdiction has control? Well, I guess it all depends on the laws within that area. Privacy is an illusion. We all know that. How's privacy affected? You have to go online every time, Greg, with the idea that nothing that you put on there is going to be kept secret. Absolutely nothing. So when you ask how's privacy affected, I'm just going to say that that's an illusion. We know that. The jurisdiction, I think, comes from whatever country's laws dictate that policy. If you have, if you're not allowed to do something in a certain country and you're doing it on a computer, you're subject to their laws. By that rationale, Google wouldn't have jurisdiction over any other country. That would be silly. In that case, I would create a company based out of the United States and then go to every other country. That would just give me control of every other country. So no. The jurisdiction is that country where the information is. So you could have a country generally where you have Google, but you could have the government snooping through all your connections. Oh, wait a minute. That's already happening in the United States. Anyway, move on to the next question. Ryan O'Donnell asked the next question. Let's go further. Should we give up technology for the sake of privacy? Well, even if you give up technology now, you have to understand too, Ryan, that our information has been on ever since the advent of computers. Our information's been, computerized for a very, very long time. If giving up technology isn't going to save your privacy. All your information's already online, stored in some database somewhere. Your phone calls, everything. People have been recording your phone calls ever since back before the Nixon years. So, just remember, I think a better thing is, if you want to maintain your privacy, which, by the way, is an illusion, just take steps. Make it more difficult. Use encryption. Use GPG. Use the tools that are provided to better secure your data as much as possible. Don't arbitrarily go put things online that are unencrypted, that tell people who you are, send your pictures out, whatever. Create an online identity and do that. That's what I've done. I've created the Shadow Character. The Shadow Character is a brand. It has a group here. It has a radio show, and that's all part of it, and that's my online identity. So that's what I do. I have no need to post who I really am online because I'm boring. But the Shadow Character gives some kind of flair to everything, and at least I hope you guys understand that. And the Watcher asks, is it possible to hack the NSA and leak all the data they stored? That's, sometimes I think, the Watcher, that you're asking questions just to be stupid. Sometimes I think you're just asking questions to see if you can get a reaction out of me. But if that's not, if you're seriously asking that question, of course. Any computer system can be hacked. Any computer system can be penetrated. There is not one system on this planet that is totally secure whatsoever. And there's going to be some people that argue, well, if I have my computer at home and I have it unplugged from the internet, I'm secure. Well, how about I just walk over to your computer in your house with a floppy disk or a CD? You know what I mean? It's not secure. There's nothing that you can do that's going to completely secure anything. This is what I keep talking about is security, privacy. They're all illusions. You just have to take steps in order to better secure information or better keep it secure. Let's see. Let's move on. Matt Williams asks, what are my preferred pen testing tools? I like OWASP. Z-Attack Proxy and the OWASP project. There's a bunch of good programs in there. A lot of times, Matthew Williams, I write my own stuff. I write my own shellcode. I write my own exploits to test. So there's a lot of people who download Metasploit and think that they're some kind of brilliant hacker because they can type in a couple commands in Metasploit. Now, Metasploit's just a framework that has a collection of code developed by real hackers. You know what I mean? It's a tool that they put out. I really think that Metasploit shouldn't be allowed to be used by script kiddies. That's the worst thing. Just go out and create havoc. I hate that. Nessus is a good program. I like Nessus. I like Snort. A lot of command line tools. Nmap. A couple other things. Some programming tools. I mostly I do command line stuff. If I'm going to do anything, it's going to be, I'm going to write it in Python or Perl. I'm going to use the command line. I love using sockets from command line in Python. So PyCharm, I mentioned that a lot. PyCharm's a good community. PyCharm Community Edition is a good IDE for Python programming. Lloyd Holt asks, are there open source versions of Burp or Nessus? I don't really know if they're open source or not. I've used Nessus quite a bit. I don't think that they're going to release that open source. I don't think there is an open source version of Nessus. Although it is a good program, I've used it for a long time, so I would say go ahead. Netcat, by the way, I just wanted to go back, and tell you, Matthew Williams, Netcat's one of the best programs that you can ever learn, and that's why I put out that Netcat book. So that's a really, really good thing. Next we have Luna Blitz. Recently there was a video posted by Anonymous saying that they were going against terrorists because of recent attacks in France. What's my take on that since blah, blah, blah? Well, you never really know who is who. I mean, when people use the term anonymous, you never really know who you're talking about. You could classify, anyone by by today's standards. You could classify anyone as a terrorist. So I really don't put much weight into anything. People use the anonymous name who are not anonymous in order for a cover. You have to understand that the world we live in is divert and deceive. It's psychological guerrilla warfare. If you've read some of the books that I've put out about the 1963 or 75 or whatever, I think it was 80 CIA Human Resource Exploitation Manual that's on my Google Drive, I mean, you can see what they're capable of. Matt Williams asks, what closed source tools have you found good replacements for as far as InfoSec testing? I don't use closed source tools. I don't use anything that I can't get the source code. I recommend that you guys don't do that either. We're at 30 minutes now, so I can hear the music coming in. I can hear the closing music coming in. Thanks for the questions, though. This is Shadow Radio. We're going to go ahead and close out episode 5 here today. I would like to have put a little more information in, but when we're at the 30-minute mark, we have to go. So that's the music. Thanks for listening to Shadow Radio, and please, folks, post your questions on there and give us some show content. I would appreciate it. So we'll see you next time on episode 6. Check us out, radio.shadowsgovernment.com, and check out shadowsgovernment.com, our headquarters. Information security is one of the best things that you guys can ever learn. So keep up the good work. Keep designing those groups. This is Shadow saying, hey, see you around.